So what we're looking at here is the light-speed transmission from the Jesko. This was completely revolutionary when we decided to do it, to remove actual shifting mechanisms from a gearbox, compounding gears 3x3, getting into 9 gears, using these extremely small hydraulic clutches, avoiding flywheel to have the fastest revving engine in any production car and the fastest shifting gearbox in any production car.
Everything the car companies told you was a lie, and a tiny company in Sweden just proved it. They told you the gas engine was dead. They told you their overpriced electric cars were the best that money could build. They told you that you had no choice but to accept it. Then Koenigsegg, an outfit with fewer than 1,000 people, built an electric motor that fits in a backpack and makes 800 horsepower, and a clean gas engine that shames every giant on Earth. The tech to build a better, cheaper, longer-lasting car exists right now. So why are they hiding it from you? Make sure you subscribe, because I started this channel for one reason, to share what dealerships and car makers don't want you to hear. With your support, I can keep making these videos. Now let's get into it. Let's start with the piece that has engineers all over the world picking their jaws up off the floor. It is called the dark matter, and it is an electric motor. Now, you know what an electric motor is? It's the thing that actually spins the wheels in an electric car. And in a normal EV, that motor is a big, heavy chunk of metal. Well, Koenigsegg's dark matter motor weighs just 86 pounds. You could carry it under one arm. It genuinely fits inside a backpack. And out of that tiny little package, it produces 800 horsepower and over 900 pound-feet of torque. Let me put that in perspective for you, friend. 800 horsepower is more than a Hellcat. It's more than most supercars on the road. And it's all coming out of a motor roughly the size of a car battery. It uses a brand new design they invented and patented, something they call rack-seal flux. And the result is a power-to-weight number that makes the motors inside a Tesla or a Ford Lightning look like museum pieces. In Koenigsegg's newest hypercar, the 4-seat Gemera, this one little motor does the entire job that used to take 3 separate motors. One unit, 86 pounds, replacing 3. And that motor is only part of the package because in that Gemera, Koenigsegg stacks its technology together to make an absolutely staggering 2,300 horsepower total. That is a number that just a decade ago would have been pure science fiction, coming out of a car that still has 4 seats and room for your luggage. That is not some small improvement, friend. That is a full generational leap. And it came out of a company that most people watching this have never even heard of, working with a tiny fraction of the resources the giants have. Which raises one very uncomfortable question that should be keeping every executive in Detroit and Germany up at night. If a few hundred people in Sweden can build this, then why on earth can't the biggest, richest car makers on the planet? But that electric motor is honestly only half of the story, and the other half matters even more for regular folks like you and me. Because at the very same time Koenigsegg was busy rewriting the rules on electric motors, they also flat out refused to give up on the gas engine, the exact thing the entire rest of the industry swore up and down was dead and buried. They built a little 3-cylinder engine, just 2 liters, barely bigger than what you'd find under the hood of an economy car. And out of that tiny thing, they pulled 600 horsepower. 600 out of 3 cylinders. But here's the part that truly matters. They did it using a technology called camless valve control. Instead of the old mechanical camshaft that has run every single engine on Earth for over 100 years, each valve is now controlled individually by a computer. That means the engine can breathe absolutely perfectly in every situation, which makes it dramatically more powerful and more efficient than anything the big boys are building. And on top of all that, it can run on clean, carbon-neutral fuels, the kind made without pulling a single new drop of oil out of the ground. So really think about what that means. Koenigsegg just proved, out loud, that you can have a gas engine that is powerful, efficient, and clean, all at the very same time. The engine never had to die, friend. It never had to. The company's founder, a fellow named Christian von Koenigsegg, has said it about as plainly as a man can, that the combustion engine can absolutely have a clean, honest future, and that killing it off was a choice, not a necessity. So then why on earth did the giant automakers spend years telling you the exact opposite? Because a clean engine that lasts forever does not sell subscriptions, does not force you back to the dealer every few months, and does not help them chase the electric quotas the government dangles money in front of them to hit. Here is a hard truth, friend. They did not abandon the engine because they couldn't fix it. They abandoned it because a fixed engine was bad for business. And that right there is the question that blows this entire thing wide open. How does a company of just a few hundred people, an outfit you could practically fit inside a single office building, run circles around General Motors and Ford and Volkswagen, companies with hundreds of thousands of employees and hundreds of billions of dollars between them? These giants have every resource on the planet at their fingertips. They have entire armies of brilliant engineers. They have money pouring out of their ears. And yet a tiny little shop up in Sweden just went and built a better electric motor and a better gas engine than any single one of them. It simply does not add up, friend. On paper, it should be impossible. The giants have 100 times the money, 100 times the people, and every advantage in the world. And they still got beaten, badly, by a little shop most folks couldn't find on a map. It does not add up until you understand one crucial thing. Koenigsegg is actually, genuinely trying to build the best possible machine. That is the entire point of the company's existence. The giants, on the other hand, are not. The giants are trying to hit government mandates, protect their fat profit margins, and dream up new ways to charge you a monthly subscription just to warm your own seats. Building the best possible car for you stopped being the real goal a long, long time ago. And when your one and only mission is to make something truly great, you tend to make something truly great. But when your mission is to squeeze the customer while quietly checking a regulatory box, well, you make exactly what they make. That is the whole difference. And Koenigsegg just held up an enormous mirror to the entire industry, and the industry does not like one bit of what it sees staring back. And it goes even deeper than just wanting to build it, friend, because here is the truly uncomfortable part. Even if one of those giants suddenly decided tomorrow that it wanted to build something this good, it almost certainly couldn't. Think about how a company like Koenigsegg actually works. At its heart, it is basically one obsessed engineer, Christian von Koenigsegg himself, and a small team he trusts, given total freedom to chase an idea until it is absolutely perfect, no matter how crazy it sounds along the way. Now think about how a giant automaker really works. Every single new idea has to crawl through a dozen committees. It has to be approved by the accountants, blessed by the lawyers, focus grouped half to death, and stripped of anything the least bit risky or expensive before it ever sees the light of day. By the time a wild idea like the dark matter motor made it through all of that, the bean counters would have strangled it in the very first meeting for costing too much and threatening next quarter's numbers. Genius simply does not survive in a place like that. It gets watered down until it is safe, and boring, and looks exactly like everything else already sitting on the lot. And that is the dirty little secret of this whole industry. The giants got so enormous and so obsessed with quarterly profits that they quietly forgot how to build something truly great. So when a small company shows them up like this, their first instinct is never to actually catch up. It is to buy the small company and quietly bury the technology, or to lobby the rulebook so that you, the regular buyer, never get your hands on it. The very size and money that is supposed to be their great advantage has quietly become the exact thing holding them back. Because here is what that little Swedish company really just exposed, and it is bigger than any motor. Every single excuse the big automakers have been feeding you for the last 5 years, Koenigsegg just proved every one of them false. They told you the engine simply had to die. Koenigsegg proved it can be clean and powerful. They told you their electric cars were the absolute cutting edge of what was even possible. Koenigsegg built a motor that makes theirs look downright ancient. They told you that you had no real choice in the matter, that the future was already decided, and that you just had to sit down and accept the expensive, complicated, locked-down cars they were handing you. And then a company with a tiny fraction of their size went and proved that not one word of that was ever true. It was never actually about what was possible. It was about what was profitable and what was politically convenient. The giants did not kill the engine because they were forced to. They killed it because chasing mandates and subsidies and selling you disposable, subscription-riddled electric cars made them a whole lot more money than building you something honest that actually lasts. So here is my honest opinion on all of it, friend. The single most valuable thing Koenigsegg just destroyed was not a lap record, and it was not a spec sheet. It was the excuse. That tired old "we had no choice" story the entire industry has been cowering behind for years. That story is now stone dead, and every one of them knows it. And an exposed lie is a dangerous thing, friend, because once you have seen behind the curtain, you can never quite unsee it. Every glossy ad they run now, every press conference where they solemnly promise you the future, you will be sitting there thinking one simple thought. If it is really and truly impossible, then how in the world did a few hundred people up in Sweden just go and do it? Now, before you get too excited about any of this, let me give you the bad news, because this is exactly where it starts to sting. You are probably never, ever going to get to buy a single bit of it. That incredible dark matter motor and that clean camless engine, they are both sitting inside a hypercar that costs several $1,000,000, and Koenigsegg builds only a tiny handful of them every single year. This technology is not coming to your driveway anytime soon, and the reason why is the exact same rotten problem we have been talking about this whole time. The giant automakers, the only companies on Earth with the actual factories to build this stuff for regular working people, have almost no incentive whatsoever to ever give it to you. And why would they? A car with a clean, simple, powerful engine that just runs and runs for 300,000 miles is an absolute nightmare for their business model. They would much rather sell you a complicated, overpriced machine that needs the dealer for every little repair and quietly nickel and dimes you with subscriptions for the rest of its life. The little guy just proved, beyond any doubt, that a genuinely better car is completely possible. But the big guys, the only ones who could ever actually put it in your hands, would frankly rather you never have it at all. So you get to sit there and watch the breakthrough happen from behind glass in a car you will never own, while the affordable stuff sitting on the dealer lot stays every bit as compromised as they want it to be. That, friend, is the part that ought to make you good and angry. It is the same old story it always is, just dressed up this time in fancy Swedish engineering. The best of everything exists, and it gets built for the handful of people at the very top, while the working man gets handed the leftovers and told to smile and be grateful for them. The only difference this time is that nobody can pretend the good version isn't real. It is right there, running, humming along, proving every single excuse false. You just aren't allowed to have it. So here's the real story sitting right underneath this whole announcement, and it is so much bigger than any one motor or any one engine. Koenigsegg did not just go and build some impressive machinery. They exposed a lie that the entire industry has been telling you, and quietly telling itself for years and years. The technology to build clean, powerful, simple, long-lasting cars already exists. It is real. It works. And a small company just showed the whole wide world that it can absolutely be done. Which means that every single time a giant automaker looks you in the eye and tells you it's impossible, or that it's just too expensive, or that you simply have to accept less, they are not actually describing a limit of engineering. They're describing a limit of their own willingness to serve you. The engine was never killed off by physics, friend. It was killed off in a boardroom. The affordable, durable, honest car was never made impossible by science. It was made unprofitable by choice. And a few hundred people up in Sweden just proved it, in about the most humiliating way imaginable, by simply going ahead and doing the very thing the giants all swore couldn't be done. So the thing Koenigsegg really and truly blew up was never the car market. It was the story that the car market has been hiding behind this entire time. And once a lie that big finally gets dragged out into the daylight, there's just no putting it back in the box. And that is the moment everything quietly shifts. Not because your next car is suddenly going to be better, because it won't be, not yet, but because the spell is finally broken. For years, they had you believing that less was all you were ever going to get, that expensive and complicated and disposable was simply the way of the world now. It isn't. It never was. And a company you had never even heard of just proved it to the entire planet in a single announcement. So what does all of this actually mean for you, the person who just wants one good, honest car and can't exactly afford a Swedish hypercar? In the short term, honestly, not a whole lot is going to change overnight, and I'm not going to stand here and pretend otherwise. The giants will keep right on doing what they do, and this technology will stay locked away in the world of the ultra-rich for a good while yet. But something far more important just happened here, and I want you to hold on to it tight. You now have proof. The very next time a car maker, or a politician, or a slick salesman tells you that you simply have to accept a worse, more expensive, more complicated car because there's just no other way it can be done, you now know for a fact that it isn't true. You have seen it with your own two eyes. The better way exists. They are just quietly choosing not to give it to you. And the more of us who truly understand that, the harder it becomes for these giants to keep on hiding behind their tired old excuse. Koenigsegg lit a match, friend. Whether or not that match burns the whole rotten story to the ground depends entirely on how many of us finally refuse to keep on believing the lie. So keep your eyes wide open, and don't you ever let a single one of them tell you it can't be done. Because a little company up in Sweden just proved, once and for all, that it absolutely can. And history has a funny way of catching right up with companies that stop trying. The giants that laughed off the small innovators, the ones who got fat and lazy and greedy and comfortable, they do not tend to stay giants forever. Somewhere out there right now, the next Koenigsegg is already tinkering away in a garage, and the one after that. The excuse is broken now, friend, and broken excuses have a way of eventually taking down the very people who spent all those years leaning on them. Koenigsegg is now scaling up production of this technology over the coming year, and the real test will be whether even one single giant automaker has the guts to license it, or whether they all quietly bury it to protect their own comfortable little game. Subscribe so you find out exactly which one they choose and who blinks first before some dealer sells you yesterday's technology at tomorrow's price.